Welcome back to Dubbzi Bricks for episode 2 of building a UCS ONYX Cinder in Lego. And first of all, I'd like to say a massive thank you to Klaus from Brickery Do Build to Lego for the donation in the last video. It was very much appreciated, Klaus. Your continued support on the channel is fantastic, so thank you so much. There were some great comments in the last video. People were giving me advice on why this is a little bit sticky, where the problems may be. There was also some ideas about why don't I bring the mechanics underneath the ship, which I think is a brilliant idea, and I think I will go down that route. There was a few people saying I should be using gears instead, and I think I will be experimenting now with gears. It wasn't something I particularly wanted to do, but I do think it is the best way forward. Now, in regards to using gears, the advantage is also with doing that is I can then connect the rear engine's mounts to the front engine mounts with a lot less pieces, and it'll be a lot more concealed. Just using the axles is going to be a lot easier than using that section at the top there. So first thing we're going to do is dismantle this section here. I am still going to be using this section, this design here. I think that is going to work okay. Although this feels quite stiff in there, I think that's more to do with the mechanism I'm using to turn it, as opposed to how much room there is inside of the macaronis there. So yeah, we're going to dismantle that, start working on the gears, attach the gears to these axles just here, see how that works, and then we'll start rebuilding the framework all the way around that. So anyway, let's dismantle, and I'll check back in once we've made a little bit of progress. And the prototyping has begun on a second mechanism for rotating the engines and wing mounts on the back of the vehicle here. And it's using cogs, as you can see. And the simple method is you just turn the lever and it goes down, and again back to there. It does seem to be a smoother motion, so I think this is probably a better way of doing it. And I'm just hoping there's going to be enough strength in the cogs and the connections that it's not going to slip, the gears aren't going to slip. I can't see any reason why they would, but we'll just have to hope that that is the case. Now, I have put this brick here with the tile on the top there, and that's so this arm can't go any further forward, so that it is always going to, it's not going to over rotate basically. And I'll do a similar thing on the back here for this. Now, as I said, this is just the prototyping stage at the moment. I don't want to have it so the chassis is level with the engine mounts. I want this to be lower, so there will be cogs on top of this, which will then actually turn that. But what I'm going to turn my attention to now is I'm just going to start designing the actual engines and the wing itself. So I want to get an idea of the weight of it, so I can attach that to this, just to see if this is strained anymore by having it attached to it. And here we have the start of the engines, and it's using the same technique as you see in the UCS Razor Crest, or very similar to it. And I will be moving this Technic beam to where the 2x6 brick is just there, and put a 2x6 brick where the Technic beam is, just to move the beam more to the center of this part of the build, just to help balance it out a little bit. Now, there is going to be considerably more build to this. Obviously, I haven't even started on the shell of it just yet, but I just want to get something knocked together just to make sure that I can mount it onto this plate here, but also that it does rotate well. So what I need to do is now start working out the engine mount onto here, but also how I'm going to be attaching the wing to this section as well. So I want to make that as detailed as possible, but also as sturdy as possible as well. So let's start having a look into that, and I'll check back in once I've done so. And I think we're getting somewhere with the mechanism, and if I turn the lever here, this moves so much easier than the previous design. So really happy with that, and I think this is definitely the way that we're going to go forward. And the good thing as well is with this, I'll just extend this axle here all the way through the fuselage to the front of the build, and that way if I can attach engines to it, I've already got the connection point which we're going to be using to get that all sorted. Now at the moment, the one problem we have got is look how much that's dropping at the moment, and this is nowhere near the size or weight of what's going to be on the connection there. At the moment, it is just connected to an axle, so I need to somehow connect it to this round plate just here to enable me to get it nice and sturdy. So that's what I'm going to concentrate on now. I did try attaching it using some brackets and things like that, but it was just a fraction of a plate out. And I think it's all to do with the fact that the gap at the bottom here is larger than the gap at the top between the hole, if you know what I mean. So the circular part is not dead centre in there. But at least I feel like we're getting somewhere with the mechanism for starters. That's all good. It's good to get an idea of the size and the weight of the engines. I mean, obviously, there is still a lot more to go on there, but it is giving me a good idea for that. But anyway, let's carry on working out how we're going to try and attach this to the plate, and I'll check back in once I've done so. And here we have the new support beam, and I've had to extend this by 2 whole bricks, 2 macaronis in there, and it does look like it's doing the job. It is very little drop in the wing section just there, and this rotates absolutely fine with inside of the macaronis. So there's been a lot of changes on the inside of that, but a lot of different techniques I've used just to clip it all together, as I have obviously the axle in one end. Now, the next thing I've got to decide is whether or not I want to attach the engines in this manner. So at the moment, I've got the studs pointing this way, got the Technic brick there, and then it's all clipped together by plates. However, it would be a lot easier if that was in the flight mode. I build the wings off of it, and then I have the engines pointing obviously up and down. So what I could do is actually make a hole in the wing and then have this Technic beam here, which the engines are connected to, actually going down through the wing. So again, it is going to be causing a lot more technical headaches, but we'll certainly have a look and see if we can do it that way. I think it will be an easier way of building a lot of details onto the wings. Now, because I want to do instructions for this, I do need to work out exactly what order you build things in. As obviously I built this frame up for the engines, however, if I do build it into the wing mounting, then I need to do it a different way. So yeah, it's all trial and error at the moment. But as soon as we've started to get all of this, the ideas worked out, and we know that we're going down the right route, then I can start doing it to its final design. So yeah, it's lots of prototyping at this stage of the build. And here we have the first prototype for the wing design, and I think it's going to work out quite nicely. It's not going to look anywhere as rough as this. Obviously the shape's not as final sort of like design or anything like that. It's just purely to make sure that the technique works. And what we've done is we've put these snot plates, or modified plates I think you might class them as, and we've got them on all 4 sides, and it's just to help keep everything together. Now let's peel those all off. Then inside here we've got loads of plates, and then the Technic brick just there as well. So that should hopefully work nicely when it comes to putting the engine mount through the centre of it. So if we just put this all back together, and then with the hole in the centre, if you get a brick with a plate and a tile on there, it fits in there absolutely perfectly. So that's the design that we're going to be going for on there, and then I can just have the engine mounts on before. So this part here, as you can see, will be built into the wing. And this is what I was on about earlier with knowing which order to do things in. Obviously this needs to be inside the wing before I start doing the actual engines themselves. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of head scratching coming up with the actual instructions themselves, but I'm sure it'll all be good fun. And here we have all 3 sections of the mock put together here, and I've put the engines on back to front, never mind, it's only the prototyping stage, but this does work really well. You can rotate them nice and smoothly with the lever there, so that's all good. Now I do need to make my mind up where I'm going with this mock, and one of the biggest problems is when the ship transforms at the end of episode 6 of the Skeleton Crew, and it sheds its skin. Obviously, by shedding its skin, it's changing its colour as well. It's going from a dark grey, in effect, to a silver colour. So that is something, obviously, I can do with the fuselage. If I had the removable skin on that, the majority of that can change colour. But things like the engines, they don't change. I can't change those. I can't have a removable skin on the engines. I could have some of the bigger details just pop off, so I could have it so you've got a very loose connection point, so I can strip those off easily enough. But the majority of the engines and the wings would still be in the dark colour. Now, there's a couple of ways I can get around that. I can just do the entire new ONYX Cinder look in a darker colour than what you see it on screen. So it won't be screen accurate colour-wise, but I could try and get it as accurate as possible on design. The other problem I have discovered is the wing length as well. It's a lot stumpier on the original ONYX Cinder. It looks a lot longer, as you can see from these images on screen. It looks a lot longer on the newer version. And I didn't see the wing extending when it shed its skin. So whether or not it's just because the engines have shrunk in size, it's made it look that much bigger, I'm not sure. But yeah, it is certainly causing a lot of headaches having this as a transformable ship. I wish they'd never done that in the show in some ways for the purpose of this build. Now, one thing that has happened, and this is just purely by accident, by doing this prototyping, I have actually found a way of having detachable engines or wings, which is good for the front. So if I just wobble this actually comes off. It's only connected by the 12 studs inside of there. And again, you just put it back in, squeeze it together, and that's it, job done. And this back to rotating again. Now, ideally, I would have a much stronger connection point in here, but this is a way that I could have those front wings removable if I do continue to go down that route. Now, what I'm going to concentrate on now is working a little bit more on the back section of the fuselage here, just so I can start experimenting with getting the actual cogs here lower down into the build. And I have to say, what a fantastic project this is, building this vessel. It is so complex, so difficult for me personally, that I'm just loving every second of it. And we've got Hans standing on top of the ONYX Cinder here. He was the first minifigure I had to hand, so this scoundrel is on this latest hunk of junk, and we're just trying to work out where to put the actual engine mounts here. So this is the part of the structure from our original build here, and originally I was just going to attach it on the top here, but I'm wondering whether or not that's too high up. If you look at this image on screen here now, the back of the ship is very slimline, and it is very central to the ship. So I need to work out whereabouts the centre of this ship actually is. And I'm thinking it's probably around about this part here. Now, the problem is I've got the Lego set and I keep looking at it for inspiration, for sort of like the details on there. And that's a mistake, because they've built the Lego set off of some images they were given probably before the show even come out, and they're not very accurate. I don't think proportionally it's correct. So on the Lego set, it's 10 bricks high, or 10 studs high if you stand a brick upright. So if I was to do this build here, that would mean this is going to be 4 times the length of it, which means it's 4 times the height of it. 40 bricks high, almost a grey base plate. I don't think so. So yeah, we're having to scrap the Lego set. I need to put that well out of my mind and just concentrate on the images I have and try and build it from there. So what I've now got is I've left this section clear at the back here for the rear boarding ramp that there is on there. Now, whether or not this gap is wide enough or not, I'm not sure. I need to sort of like concentrate on that further down the line. But at the moment, as I said, we're just purely prototyping the techniques that we're going to have, make sure everything works, and then we'll sort of like concentrate on actually making it to scale shortly afterwards, which will be quite a quick process. But the thing is, where do I put this? Is it up here? Is it lower? Do I need to be building it into this section? All of these things, it's really complex. Now, what I have decided is, at the moment, I'm trying to do the instructions as I go along. So, for example, I build this, do the instructions for it, so I know it's okay, and then go forward. But that's just not going to work. What I think I need to do is actually build the entire vessel. What I'll then do afterwards is I then need to make the bold decision, and whether I can do it or not is actually dismantle it. And what I would do is I would dismantle it brick by brick and take a photograph of every single stage, then get all those photographs and then start from the last photo and work my way forward and do the instructions from there, which will be a very time consuming process, very frustrating. Then once I've done that, then I can then rebuild the ship. Now, the plus side is I have instructions for the ship. The downside is if it doesn't work, I haven't got the vessel. But that's the decision I've got to make. At the moment, the way I'm going about it, trying to build the instructions as I go along, it's just not working. And it's going to take, the way I'm going at the moment, I feel it's going to take me 10 years just to come up with this, which I don't want. So what I want to do, I'm going to concentrate on just building the ship in my normal style, trial and error. We'll get to the end result, I'm sure. And then I can put the video out. This is the final vessel, which hopefully is going to be really cool. And then a couple of months later, we'll hopefully have the instructions should anybody wish to purchase them. So yeah, that's where we're at the moment. So yeah, so what I need to do now is just try and work out where exactly the engine mount goes. Is this part here wide enough for the loading bay on the back there? It is really difficult, as I said, with so few images for this. So if anybody has got any ideas of images other than on Wikipedia, my email is in my channel description. Again, if you could ping them over, I would be eternally grateful. So yeah, but anyway, let's carry on working out where we're going to put the engine mounts. And once I've done so, I'll check back in and show you where they are. And this build really is becoming comical in regards to the problems that I'm having. As soon as I think I found a technique that works, like the engine mount here, I thought, yeah, we've cracked it. The engines don't droop. It all looks good. I then sort of like work out how I'm going to be doing the fuselage here. I've just got nowhere near enough room to fit this part here. It's yeah, it's just comical, really. I need to try and keep the actual main structure here relatively slimline. It is a big ship, but it's not massively wide. And due to the angles that it comes down on both sides, I need to make sure that this part is right inside the vessel. And I just think if I go for this here, it's going to be that much wider. So again, I think I'm going to have to start working on this structure bit in here. But we'll cross that bridge later. I think what I'm going to do for the time being is I'm just going to work out how I'm going to integrate this section into the build. I will attach this wing mount onto it. It's going to be a little bit fragile because it's going to be quite a bit of it overhanging, but then I'll just concentrate on working on that further down the line. But yeah, it's, as I said, it's comical, but it is, believe me, it is so much fun trying to get around these technical problems. Building things like Gotham City is, the only head scratching you have is with what building goes where. But with this, the technical side, trying to work out the techniques you need to use just to get everything rotating, moving, and looking how you want it to look is so much harder, but so much more fun. So yeah, really loving every second of this build. And the fun and games continue, and it's now all to do with the cogs that need to be built in for the engines. And here we have one of the structures, and I've cut back this section just here, so I've allowed enough room, and this will sit in here and it will clip into the Technic bricks at the back, so that's where it will all go. Now the problem we've got is the cog needs to be in that section around about there, pretty much there actually, but I need another cog to go here, but I can't do so due to the fact that this Technic beam's here and that Technic brick is just there, and I don't really want to move those two if I can help it, as they are really helping with the overall strength of the build. So I just need to try and work out where I'm going to be putting all of the cogs in here so I can actually connect the wing mount onto the end of it. And it's not just a case of having it on one side. I want it to be connected all the way across the vessel. So this really is proving to be even more of a technical challenge than I was originally thinking. When I had the one big block on the back here, it was straightforward. I wouldn't have had to worry. But now I want to have the ramp on the back, as you see in the show, it is open up a whole can of worms of problems that I wasn't expecting. But there's got to be a solution some way. So we're just going to carry on experimenting. And yeah, I'll check back in once I've come up with a solution. And here we have the engine mounts attached to the fuselage. But one thing I do need to do is shrink this down as much as possible. It'd be really nice if I could cut it off around about there. However, at the moment, due to how the engines are and the wings are connected to the beam going into here, I do need a lot more of the macaronis to help with the support of it. But hopefully, once we've got the strength built into it and changed a couple of techniques here and there, we'll be able to shrink this down and make it a little bit more streamlined. And here we have 2 prototype wings added to the chassis here. Now, size-wise, I've got to work out how big it's actually going to be. Here is the Lego set, and as you can see, this is already considerably bigger. However, if I do stick to the theory that it's going to be around about 4 times the size of that, obviously you can see here the length of that wing compared with this, I've probably got to go another 7 or 8 bricks, so another 7 or 8 studs longer on there. The engines, they're going to be quite a bit wider, and you can see I put the bricks on here to give an idea of how much wider they're going to be. Length, again, I need to just calculate all of those sort of things. But the fuselage, this is where we need to sort of like start working out exactly how we're going about it. I feel like I made a good bit of progress this month in the techniques we're going to be using for this, and I'm sure we are on the right track with that. It's just streamlining all of this inside here and shrinking this back end up so we can get it nice and tidy to fit in this part of the vessel. So yeah, need to do that, and also work on the wing mounts here, get a lot of strength in there, but using as few bricks as possible so that I can make it, again, nice and streamlined. And the prototyping continues, and here we have one of the engines, or the structure of it, should I say, that we're going to be building off of. And what I now need to do is work out how I'm going to put the skin on this. So I've been looking at the instructions for both the Saturn V and also the UCS Razor Crest, and between the two of them I'm hoping I can work out a way that I can get the skin looking as accurate as possible to what you see in the Skeleton Crew episodes. So the idea at the moment is just work out roughly how it's going to be, then I can order in all the parts needed for all 6 engines. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to have a little bit of a play, and I'll check back in once I've come up with some form of design on the outside. And we're finally getting somewhere with the design of the outer skin of the engines here. I've got a rough idea now of what I need to be ordering in, and once I've got those parts in, then I'll do this in its entirety. But I've gone pretty much as far as I can with the parts that I have available, and it was all in regards to where I put these particular parts just here. Now here is one of the original designs here, and these parts here are all fixed in place, whereas this part here you can move it very, very slightly. I had the curves on the fixed bricks, where by moving them onto this part here, it just gives me a little bit more freedom with how I can build. It's also enabled me to do this sort of design on the top. So yeah, that was one of the parts that's helped to make a bit more progress with the build. Again, on the side here there are a lot more details, so I've now got some studs which I can work to a lot easier than before. But yeah, it's nice to get these the outer skin of this finally started on here, so I can start visualizing the actual size of the build. When you just see the core center part here, like we've got here, it doesn't really give you a true idea of how big the actual ship is going to be. But when you start seeing this bit here, then you can really start to appreciate it. Anyway, that's all we have time for. Hope you've enjoyed the update. If you have, please remember to give us a big thumbs up. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future content on the channel. And if you know anybody else you think would be interested in building the ONYX Cinder in Lego, if you could share the channel with them, it'd be much appreciated. Anyway, thanks for watching, bye, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.